Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of how I messed up back in the day, how badly I messed up back in the day. So understand, and many of you who follow me will know this already, that when I first started training, it was to bulk up. I was a very, very skinny guy, and I was absolutely hell bent on gaining muscle mass and just mass in general. I was absolutely determined to get bigger, stronger, bulkier, thicker set because I was really, really insecure about how skinny I was. I wanted to be more muscular. And so I remember, back when I was 15, 16, approaching my first ever bulk. And what I'm hoping is, that me explaining this story to you guys who are just starting out your journey, hopefully you can learn from some of my mistakes because my God, did I make more than a few mistakes, which served me well down the line, but you'd rather not have to make them yourself. So I remember, being a 16-year-old, and the information that was out there was basically suggesting you need to eat loads of protein and you need to eat lots of calories. What was fueling this was this ideology that you had to be in a caloric surplus to be in a state of anabolism, and anabolism obviously being defined by the state where the body is able to grow, as opposed to catabolism, the opposite of anabolism, where the body is essentially shrinking, it's consuming itself for energy. And being a 16-year-old, I probably read into this in far too much of a literal manner, interpreting this as there was a real danger of immediate muscle loss if I wasn't in a caloric surplus and if I wasn't gaining or acquiring sufficient protein content in my diet. So this became very much a case of, I assessed my calorie maintenance. I remember doing that briefly, but then I set a figure way above that. I told myself, okay, well, I need to be like 1,000 calories above my maintenance, right? If I'm going to be serious about growing, I'm going to need to be way above that. In any case, my strategy largely involved ensuring that every meal had a huge amount of protein in it. I became obsessed with protein. Like, if I go out for family meals with mum and dad and my brothers and sister, and I'd be the one picking the mixed grill. I'd be having, the steak. I'd be having all of the protein-rich meals, and often sacrificing the things that I really wanted to eat and enjoy for the sake of being hell-bent on having my protein. So that would be at dinner time. But then I'd come back, and if it had been a couple of hours since dinner, I'd be obsessed with then getting a protein shake. And then if there was another couple of hours before bed, I'd be nervous going to bed thinking, damn, have I had enough protein today? Probably already far in excess of 200 grams at this point. And I'd be like, all right, well, I better find something in the fridge to cook up and have before bed, because I don't want to be catabolic at nighttime. I don't want to be losing this hard-earned muscle tissue when I'm asleep. So I'd cook up one more meal, and I'd have maybe, some chicken or something, chicken and rice, or, chicken thighs at that point, because I wanted calories, And then it gets worse, guys. At this point, I was even thinking, all right, well, if I want to gain loads and loads of muscle mass and definitely don't want to go catabolic and lose tissue at nighttime, I'm going to do this. This is crazy looking back at it. I'm going to set an alarm for 4 a.m, a few hours before I wake up, maybe 3 or 4 hours before I wake up. And I'm going to set an alarm so I can have a protein shake at night as well, so I don't lose muscle tissue at nighttime. And I did it, guys. I used to do this shit. I used to go downstairs again, into the kitchen, make up a protein shake, neck it, and go back to bed. And then when I woke up, I'd wake up with a full stomach, It gets worse. And breakfast would be like, sometimes it would be as much as 6 to 8 eggs, a bowl of oats, and a protein shake. Anyway, needless to say, I did gain a lot of weight, and people were telling me, oh, mate, you're doing really well, you're gaining loads of weight, well done, you're pushing, you're getting strong. And I did gain some muscle, but there was a point, I remember this so clearly, so long ago now, but I remember it so clearly, and it sounds a bit gross, but I sat on the loo, and I was kind of hunched over, and I kind of looked down, and I grabbed about a bread loaf's worth. Like, imagine a full loaf of bread, right? Filled both hands of fat on my tummy. And it was at that point where I realized, because I'd been blind to it, that I was doing this whole thing wrong. I gained so much body fat in the process of trying to bulk, and I failed in my bulk in many ways. In many ways, I failed. I did gain muscle, I did gain strength, but I gained far too much body fat as well. And the reason why I did that was because I was far too excessive and not nearly calculated enough in my approach to a mass phase. So what did I learn from that mistake? I learned that there is a top limit. There is a limit point. No matter how fast your metabolism is, no matter how skinny you are when you start, you can definitely overcook it. You can definitely get in far too much calories. You can definitely get in far too much protein to a point where you get overspill. And the best way to think of a mass phase or gaining muscle is, I like to use the pint glass analogy. Okay, so in terms of what your body needs and what it can utilize for actually building muscle tissue, think of it like a pint glass. A pint glass is only going to hold 1 pint of water, which I believe is 568 mils. So just over half a litre. Anything more than that, the pint glass spills over. And in the case of a human body, that spillover, that overspill, is determined, or represented rather, by body fat gain. And actually, the more fat you gain, the less sensitive your body becomes to actually utilizing those nutrients, and particularly becomes less sensitive to protein synthesis, the ability to synthesize protein, i.e. to build muscle tissue. So there needs to be a more calculated approach if you are bulking. And this involves having parameters set for how much food you need, and particularly how much you need above your maintenance. Okay, that's so crucial. And if you want to gain lean tissue, if you're happy to gain a lot of fat, that's fine. Like, who am I to say that? But I didn't want to gain fat. I wanted to gain muscle. And I'm sure many people watching this are the same. You need to be quite clear on being only a few hundred calories at most above your maintenance. And obviously that figure changes over time, depending on your energy levels, your expenditure levels, depending on your sleep, depending on your muscle mass that you are acquiring. It's a constantly evolving figure, that maintenance calories. And so I wanted to come on here today just to say that when you are bulking, you would not be and you are bulking hard for the first time, you wouldn't be the first person to gain a little bit of excess fat if you have gained some excess fat. And I can assure you the problem can be remedied very easily by reversing the process, going into a bit of a deficit and dropping the body fat. And yes, you will reveal some new tissue. However, take it from me, one thing you absolutely do not need to do, okay, I made the mistake. I made a bit of a fool of myself, thinking that I was gaining all this muscle, and actually it was largely fat, by just eating way too much. It was kind of like a seafood diet, and just my mission objective was, forget about being calculated, just eat as much as you possibly can and ensure that there is a good amount of protein in your diet. And it just doesn't work like that, guys. So there I am, bearing all. I completely cocked up my first bulk. I did encounter some nasty comments at the time. I remember it quite clearly, actually. But a lot of compliments too. And, a lot of people were like, well done, you've really done well. And actually, it kind of fed into the problem a little bit. I really did kind of convince myself that I was doing really well on this bulk and gaining good muscle mass. It was becoming quite revered because, in my clothes, I still looked pretty decent. But why am I telling you guys this? Because you're making work for yourself unless you are a little bit more calculated in your approach. You're going to have to cut more body fat. It's also going to be damaging to your health to be carrying that extra weight, that extra effort that your heart's got to do to support your body. It's just not healthy to gain that much body fat. So, go home points. I'll conclude this. Is on your first bulk, just be a little bit more measured. Take a bit of time to figure out what your maintenance is, and you don't need to go crazy above it. A few hundred calories, 2, 3, maybe 400 absolute maximum to support your mass gain goals. Protein wise, again, you don't need to have too much protein. I think I was aiming for like 300, maybe 350, something like that, but I wasn't tracking, remember, back in the day. Now, I go when I'm really trying to gain tissue and push my training. For me, it will be roughly 250 grams, okay? And I weigh about 230 pounds. So it's just over a gram per pound of body weight, and my body fat percentage is quite high at the moment. I'm probably like, 20%, let's say. So yeah, you don't need a huge amount of protein, guys, to support your muscle gain goals, and you don't need a huge amount of calories if you want to stay in shape as well. You just got to be fractionally above your maintenance. And if you go with a roughly 1 gram per pound of body weight, that's going to be roughly where you need to be. That's a very approximate figure. Obviously, body fat percentage just come into that, and we can be far more calculated. But as an estimation, about a gram per pound of body weight. It doesn't need to be 2 to 3 grams, that's for sure. Okay. So anyway, just wanted to share that story with you guys. I got my first bulk completely wrong. If you've got any questions or comments or want to share your experience with your first bulk, then don't hesitate to talk about it in the comment section, and we can talk more about it. All right, guys, have a wicked day, and we will catch up soon. Thanks for joining me.